The board of editors of THISDAY Arise News yesterday accused the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council's Director of Media and Publicity, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, and its Director of Strategic Communication, Mr. Alake, of attempting to silence independent media, cower as well as bully free press ahead of the 2023 general elections in what they described as a copycat style of former U.S. President Donald Trump against independent media. The THISDAY Arise News Board of Editors stated this in a joint statement titled Tinubu and THISDAY Arise Media Group and the Attack on Free Speech. They also noted, out of envy and pettiness, the continuous attacks on the chairman and editor-in-chief, Prince Nduka Obaigena, by both Alake and Onanuga. The editors pointed out that in at least 4 separate press statements and interviews in the last 3 weeks, Onanuga and Alake, instead of responding to issues on sending petition to the organization's ombudsman, have variously accused the group of bias against the APC presidential candidate, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The editors further stated that the insecure duo of Onanuga and Alake are already threatening the free press while they seek the votes of Nigerians. What will they do if Tinubu is elected president? Kill independent media or take their markets over using the power of the state and replacing them with media platforms they control and which to them? Also, 2 senior APC campaign officials had apparently requested that remove THISDAY editor and columnist Shaka Momodu and the morning show co-host on Arise News Rufai Oseni from their current positions to stop the attacks on or get reprieve for a future Tinubu presidency. The boards of editors of THISDAY Arise News channel would like to state without equivocation that we do not fire journalists because of their views. A big way to open the show this morning. I'm torn between, because Rufai, you're mentioned in this, and Dr. Abati. Let me start with Dr. Abati.
No, it's teamship.
Let
Rufai say you go.
Dr. Abati, this is hate speech.
You go first.
Really serious way to start off the news, and I think important points made. And Rufai, your name is, you're implicated in that. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this morning.
So as a journalist, I never love to be part of the story, because we report the story, but in a time like this, when it's politics, you have to be part of the story. And you see, it's a record. I've got nothing against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I love everybody equally, because it's my injunction as a Christian to love. I've got nothing against my Egbon, Bayo Onanuga, and Mr. Alake. I love them as professionals in their own fields. But also, the kind of journalism I was taught. Anyway, they abuse me all the time that I'm not a journalist. But I've spent quite so many years in this business. Yeah, I might not look it, but I've done well over 16, going to 17 years. In Lagos alone, I've put in close to 10 years on radio before I came. So I didn't just drop from the skies. I know my stuff. I've worked with the best media brands all over the world. I've also mentored a lot of people in this business. But I think the stress here is objectivity. I will be objective in my coverage of every presidential candidate. And what you cannot fault me for is that I've been objective with all the presidential candidates. Part of the toughest interviews we had here has been with Peter Obi. And trust me, the kind of heat we give to Mr. Peter Obi when he's here, I'm not sure we've been able to interview other presidential candidates on this platform like that. And that's the level of objectivity. Because you see, they say all sorts about me. They do all sorts. But what I want them to know is that I love them, irrespective of the hatred that is being meted out at me. I'm a child of love. I was conceived in love. They even went further, and thank God Dr. Abati was there. They took a picture of Peter Obi and me and Jandor at my own father's day of tribute. They couldn't even allow my father rest in peace before they brought my father, my dear father, the love of my life, into politics while I was still grieving. And they labeled it a political gathering. But in all of this, I forgive them. You know what I'm just concerned about? I'm concerned about the future of this country. I want this country to do well because we have problems. unemployment, underdevelopment. And you know why I also forgive them? Because all of this will not matter any longer after the 25th or after February when the presidential election has been done. You see all these people that are antagonistic, they will now come together and say, how can we make this country better? They love Nigeria too, they are patriots. But it's just that they can't stand the objectivity because of where their interest tilts towards. And I don't have any problems with anybody having interests. But also let objective voice stand. And it's quite shocking to me, Ayo. It was just this morning like I found out that they've been talking to my bosses at the back and they wanted to remove me from Arise TV and take me out. When I hear that, I keep telling people my future, my career, my destiny is in God's hands. It's not in the hands of man. So with any manipulation, I love them. Last week, Mr. Bayo Onanuga mentioned my name. In an interview, mentioned Dr. Abati's name too, said we were politically leaning. And all I just looked and said is, I have a lot of respect for him to do all of that and to say things that are not true about me. So with all of this hatred and this attack, all I can give is the love of God from my heart to all of them. And I hope when this passes, we'll be able to focus on the real substance, which is the development of this country with so much potential, but it's being crippled with personal interest. I love them all. I love Nigeria, and I love God.
Very well said. Thank you, Rufai. Dr. Abati.
Okay, well, two sides now. The statements by the Tinubu group, led by Mr. Dele Alake, who is Director of Media. Mr. Dele Alake, who is in charge of strategic communications, and Mr. Bayo Onanuga, who is in charge of media operations. Both of them haven't taken time out before now to accuse THISDAY Arise Group of bias, prejudice, blackmail, including going further in statements, 4 statements in fact issued within the space of about 2 weeks. Direct attacks on the THISDAY Arise Media Group and also on the person of the chairman of the group, Prince Nduka Obagbena. And then to the extent that in one press release, Mr. Onanuga even said that media personnel working for the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council and the APC in general must not show up on this channel or relate in any way with the media. And now this morning we have a response published on the front page of THISDAY newspaper, our sister publication, responding to those allegations. Well, the two sides of the story are out there. I stated that because people will say, let no man be a judge in his own cause. Nemo judes in causa sua. But there are certain basic principles that have been laid out in the statement by THISDAY and Arise Media Group that should be reiterated. And all of these are contained in that statement. 1, that an attack on the independent media is an attack on free speech. After all, it was Thomas Jefferson who told us that if you were to choose between a government without newspapers or newspapers without government, you would choose the latter. That is, recognizing the importance of the media to the stability of democracy and the regime of free speech. And if you look at the Nigerian Constitution, as THISDAY has always pointed out, under Section 22, the role of the media is recognized as a fourth estate of the realm, to hold government accountable, to hold persons who want to be in government accountable, to hold everybody in society accountable by raising questions. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution deals with the right of persons to set up media, organs of free expression, and to not be intimidated on that account. So what we have seen, what the THISDAY Media Group is saying, is that the attempt by 2 key persons in the Bola Ahmed Tinubu to intimidate the media amounts 1 to censorship, amounts 2 to dictatorship, amounts 3 to bullying tactics, and within the purview of the principles properly spelled out, in both Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. This will amount to a violation of the right of citizens to be informed, to free speech, and the right of the media to play its constitutional role. 2, the irony here is that the two persons involved, they are in their own right media chieftains. Mr. Dele Alake started from radio, he rose to become editor of National Concord, he rose to become Director General of TVC, a television station that belongs to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So in terms of his background, and he has also been Commissioner of Information, so you cannot say that he doesn't understand the issues involved, okay, as a top journalist in his own right. Mr. Onanuga, in fact, was the one who led the protests against any kind of intimidation by the Abacha government, when the Abacha government wanted to silence African Concord. He and others left the African Concord and later went on because they said they were not going to apologize to the Abacha junta. So this is a man also who has a background as somebody who defended the independence of the media. And he led a team that established The News magazine. He led the same team that started The Temple. He was involved actively in guerrilla journalism, defending the same sections of the Constitution that I pointed out. So he's also, a top figure in the Nigerian media. So that is why it is ironic that the two of them, with such distinguished background, in the media space, are the ones now trying to gag other journalists, calling other journalists names, intimidating, a media institution, just because they are working for a master. So that is what is most unfortunate about it. And I'm sure that there are many younger journalists who look up to both Mr. Onanuga and Mr. Dele Alake who will be thoroughly disappointed. And this is the thing, about journalists. People wonder sometimes the kind of, politics that we play within the media. After all, the standard thing that is often said is that dogs don't eat dogs. But it's like when you give some dogs fat bones, they will forget that the other dog, is a member of the family, and they will want to eat that dog up. And they will even forget what the rules of the engagement will seem to be. What is the third point? The third point here, as clearly stated in the THISDAY Arise Group statement, is that 1, the media cannot be intimidated. Whatever your pedigree, whether you are a top journalist or you are working for a politician, you cannot frustrate the independent media. That's the main point there. And to restate the duties and responsibilities of the media, that nobody can dictate how any media house should function, as long as the issue at stake is free speech. And I think in that regard, the THISDAY Arise Media Group is perfectly in order. Now, certain other issues were addressed in this matter, in this statement. What could have led to it? The first was a certain report about a certain Akande who died, and all of that was linked to Bola Ahmed Tinubu's background when he was in Chicago. Okay, so if that was the issue, THISDAY is saying, Arise Group is saying, why didn't they counter with superior information if they have it? And the statement went on to say, we cannot afford to have a Noriega moment in Nigeria. Anybody who aspires to be president of Nigeria must come to equity with clean hands. When questions are raised, those questions must be responded to. And the resort to blackmail is undemocratic. 2, the statement raised the point that if this is an indication, if they are saying, their candidate cannot be criticized, their candidate cannot be asked questions, he cannot be invited to a town hall because he wants to organize his own, are they trying to suggest that should their candidate win, then the media will be suppressed? That will be a return to the era of military dictatorship. And it would be so unfortunate if that were to be the suggestion, considering the fact that all the spokesmen for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they constantly remind us that this was a man who was part of the June 12 struggle, which is a fact, Okay, so because the same man wants to be president of Nigeria now, the same media, he wants to suppress the media. And again, another irony there. Many of these persons, they become stars, they become famous because the media created them in the first place. Many of these people you see, without the media, nobody will know them. And that is why I often say, look, the media also, the iconization process, you know, the hero selection process that we go through, that we do on a daily basis, we also have to be careful. Because you go and create some people, you turn them into heroes, they will turn around and become monsters against you. The other point made in that statement is the attempt by politicians to think that they can take editorial decisions for media houses. No, that in itself is an erosion of the independence of the media. You don't tell an editor or a media house, I want my story to appear on social day. This is how I want you to treat my story. Please use my material tomorrow. No, you don't do that. We are gatekeepers. I mean, as chairman editorial board, you don't come and tell me you want your article to appear tomorrow. You don't tell me. I decide how I want to do my job as a gatekeeper. And whoever you are, you don't dictate, because the owner of the business himself does not dictate. So it's good that, you know, this NRI's group, you know, the group is insisting on professionalism and also the right of reply of the other party, which is another thing that starts out strong there. If you feel aggrieved, then say your own side of the story. The platform is available for everybody. And the painful part, just to end on that note, is that the people who are trying to bully the media, they are themselves persons who have been in the struggle, who have defended press freedom. So why is it that they have changed all of a sudden? Because it's like, you know, kicking their own pedigree, their own antecedents, you know, down the road, just to please a politician. This is a dilemma that many journalists face, but I think it's important that our Rice Group and THISDAY, you know, have both restated the principles. Those principles must be re-established, must be re-emphasized, and those issues are in the public domain for the public to decide. But the big takeaway is that anybody who wants to be president of this country must be prepared to answer questions, must be subjected to scrutiny. You cannot have, you know, somebody who will just say, oh, you can't ask me questions. No, that will amount to dictatorship, and it will be utterly presumptuous. And all spokespersons should know that they cannot adopt the tactics of the military. After all, what is the gain in this dispensation since the return to civilian rule in 1999?
Very well said, Dr. Abati. There's really not much to add following Rufai and Dr. Abati's statement, but just to also talk about the fact that when the principals in terms of the Director of Media and Publicity, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, and the Director of Strategic Communication, Mr. Alake, are speaking in this manner, then what should we expect from the surrogates? Well, we see what we expect from them because we have, consistent attacks on social media, on different platforms. If you don't lead by example and demonstrate what it means to be in media in a democratic dispensation, then it is difficult for your surrogates or followers to abide in the same vein. Democracy cannot thrive if we do not have strong media.